Okay, so in the last lecture, we discussed about the introduction of Java and we started with some programs, right? We started with some code and we started with that we were printing some data, right? We were printing hello, Abhishek and trainer, right? So in current lecture, what we would be doing is we would be moving on with that. We would be starting to learn more about Java. Then in the next lecture, we would be starting with Selenium. Right. Before starting with Selenium, we need to have a concept of Java clear so that we don't get confused in Selenium. Right. So this is day 2. And over here, I'm finishing it. Now, what we have to do is that we need to create a new class. Let me just create a class named as introduction again. So we'll be having introduction class over here again. We need some things to be discussed first. Then we would be moving on to the another concepts. Right, so introduction. Now over here, see what we'll do is we'll borrow a few things from here. So the things that we've discussed in the last lecture, and I'll just borrow everything, right? So this is exactly the same actually. So if I borrow everything, that is not an issue. Let me just save this. Now, first thing, if you have a few projects created in your workspace and if you want to close them, so how would you be able to do that? This is pretty easy. So for this, what you have to do is that you have to right click over this and then you need to click on the close project. The moment you click on this, it would be asking you for save changes. If you click on save, then it would be saving all the files which are open inside this particular project. And then this particular project would be closed. When the project is closed, you can see that there is a folder which is not open. And this project is open, so it is open and we can expand it as well. Right? This is about how we can close the project. Now coming back to this, first thing, right? Whenever we are writing some code, we need some comments, right? We need to add comments. So there are two types of comments. First one is single line comment. So if I have this thing written, right, and I don't want this thing to be executed while to be considered while execution, right? So how would I be able to do that? Simply, I'll put // before the comment where it is starting, right? Now the whole line would be ignored, right? So for example, if you would want to ignore this line, suppose I've written this single line comment. Now if I uncomment it, you can see that there would be some problem in my code. Right now it is not showing, but you can see that over here there is a problem, right? Multiple markers at this line, single cannot be resolved to a type, right? Syntax error on token comment, right? So there is some issue, right? The moment I declare this line as a comment, then there is no issue. The error has gone, right? So this is how we can specify a single line comment. But now you might have noticed that I did not move my cursor here and I put // here. Instead, I use a shortcut. So the question that would be in your mind is, what is that shortcut, right? So the shortcut is Control plus /. Okay. Simply, you have to put on this and you can put a comment. Now to uncomment that line, simply keep the cursor on that particular line and hit Control / once again and it would uncomment it. So this is how you can comment and uncomment a line simply, and you don't have to worry about it. Now the next thing is multi-line comments. Sometimes what happens is that you have these 3 lines of code that you would want to comment out. Or sometimes what happens is that there are thousands of lines of code that you want to comment out. Right? You cannot go to each and every line, or you cannot highlight the whole code and comment it out, right? Now the shortest way to use a multi-line comment is this. That is, let me just mention a multi-line comment over here. Say multi comment, right? Now how would I be able to specify a multi-line comment? This is pretty easy. All you have to do is that you need to put on a /*, then the line where you want to end it, right? So I would want to end it over here, right? So */, and the comment is specified, right? Now over here there is no code issue and you can go with it. Now the next thing, this was about say specifying comments, and earlier in the last lecture we discussed about declaring a variable which is of integer type, and we printed its data as well, right? Now let us move forward and let us discuss about the string type variables as well. So string type variables are declared like this. S is not small this time, S is in capitals, right? So string, say A. String A equals to, now whenever you have a put on a data inside a string type variable, we need to make use of these quotes, and whatever data we specified inside these quotes, these would be saved. So say Abhishek, right? So this is saved. Now to complete this line, we need to put on a semicolon, and this is done, right? Now over here A is specified, we can print A as well. So the simplest way is this, that is system.out.println, and specify the variable name, that is A, right? Now let us just try executing our code and see what happens. So over here now I'm executing this code, and you can see that it is printing Abhishek. So whatever data I'm providing over here, so if I'm providing Abhishek Puri, then it would be printing Abhishek Puri, right? So whatever data I'm specifying in the string, that is getting printed, and that is getting provided here, right? Now let us discuss about debugging once again. So over here, what we would be doing is, let us just move forward and create two variables instead of one. So A is this, that is Abhishek, and there is another variable. So string B equals to Puri, right? So there are two variables. Now the thing is that we would be concatenating them inside one variable. So string and string, right? C equals to A plus B, right? Now I've written some code. Right now what I have to do is that instead of printing A, I would be printing C, right? Now let us see what has happened, right? So I will be executing this code, and let's see what it has printed, and you can see that it is printing Abhishek Puri without space, right? Now let us do one thing. Let us introduce a checkpoint. So the simplest way is right click over here, click on toggle breakpoint, and we have added a breakpoint. Now let us start executing our code. So F11 is the key, right? And over here, what I have to do is that I need to just hit F11 key, right? The moment I hit F11 key, it is asking me to switch the perspective. Now you might be having a question in your mind that what is a perspective? Let me just come to that in some time. Right now I'll just click on no, and you can see that things are executing, and the code has paused over here in this particular line, that is line number 15, right? Even the line has not executed, so things before it has been executed. So there is nothing which has been executed yet. All the code was commented out already. Now to move to the next line, what we have to do is that we need to hit F6 key. Now the moment I hit F6 key, this whole line would be executed. 15th line has been executed. This means that A is having some value, and you can see that A is having a value Abhishek, right? In the same way, I'll hit F6 once again. Now B is also having a value, right? Puri. Now here you can see that A is having this value Abhishek, and B is having this value Puri. Now C is getting concatenated. So if I hit F6, you can see that C is having a value Abhishek Puri, right? Now this is the same value that would be printed, right? Now this is about the normal Java perspective, right? Now the thing is that it was asking you for some perspective change. Now the question that would come into mind is, what is a perspective, right? Perspective we can refer as the view. Okay, so the view that you are having of this particular editor window. For example, we have this say code part, right? We have this project explorer part, we have this console part, right? There is some information which is useful while executing the code only, not while debugging the code, right? Now we have another perspective, we have another view as well. So just click on this particular button, that is open perspective. In case if you're not able to see this button, no need to worry about that. Just click on this window button over here, go to perspective, click on Open Perspective and click on this Debug Perspective. The moment you click on Debug Perspective, the view will change a bit, and you can see that there are 3 different tabs open now, that is variables, breakpoints and expressions. The 2 major tabs that we would be dealing with is variables and breakpoints. Let us start debugging this code once again, right? So let me just start executing it once again, F11, and you can see that at this particular point of time there are no variables. Right now over here, the moment I hit F6, a new variable has been initialized, that is A, and it is having a value Abhishek. Right, if I hit F6 once again, you can see that a new variable has been created which is having a value Puri. Right, now if I hit F6 again, C is created which has the data this, that is Abhishek Puri. Right, so this is how you can see the execution going on. Whatever variables you have before this line got executed, right, all the variables would be shown over here and their corresponding values as well. Right, now apart from that, as you can see that there is a breakpoint, so this would be shown over here in the breakpoints list, and you can see that introduction line number 15, right, introduction class line number 15, right. So this is where we have specified a breakpoint. If I want to add another breakpoint, you can see that over here this new line has been added. The breakpoint is added at line number 18, so this is showing over here that line number 18. Right, so this is how you can specify a breakpoint. This is how you can debug the code. Now let us move forward and let us just discuss about something else. So what we would be discussing about now is we would be discussing about exceptions, right? So how the exceptions come up and how would you be able to handle them? So right now, let me just show you few exceptions, and then we would be moving on that how would we be able to handle them, right? Now for this, what we would be doing is, let me just come to this particular part. Right, now over here, if you notice, we have a variable. Let me just create a new variable. So integer A. Now let me just do one thing. Let me just comment out this particular part of code, Control/, and this has commented out everything that came its way. Now A equals to 10, right? So over here, integer B equals to 2, right? So if I print them, these would be printed something like this, say A and system.println B. If I run them, if I run this code, you can see that, okay, it is telling me that it contains obsolete methods. Why it is containing obsolete methods? Terminate. Okay, so over here, let me just start executing once again. Control F11, and you can see that 10 and 2 are getting printed. Right, now over here, if you saw something, there was some notification that it contains some obsolete methods, right? So what happened was, for example, let me just run it once again. So I started debugging my code, and mid debugging I tried to execute my code once again the normal way. So the moment I do this, sometimes what happens is that the code gives you the prompt that it contains obsolete methods. In that case, all you have to do is that stop the execution from here, terminate the execution, and you're good to go. Now over here, let us just stop the whole execution. This is the button, that is the terminate button, and you're good to go. Now the thing is that you need to execute this code, right? And this is executing well. Now we will be introducing another variable, that is C. C equals to A divided by B. So if I print C, system.out.println, and if I print out C, then if I run this code, what would happen? It would be printing 5, right? What if B is having a value 0? What would happen? Right, this is a logical error, right? If you notice, now the code was executing and it immediately stopped, right? Now, the moment it stopped, it gave us an exception that there is an arithmetic exception, and it has given us a detail as well. That is divide by 0, right? So divide by 0, this is the exception, and over here where it has occurred, so it has given us a location as well. The moment I click on it, you can see that on the line number 25, I'm trying to divide A by B. Now B is having a value 0 and A is having value 10, right? So it is not able to divide it, right? Now let us try debugging this code, F11, and you can see that over here the code is paused at this particular line. Let me hit F6. So we have a variable specified A. Let us have the variable specified B. Now over here, the moment I hit next button, you can see that C is not getting initialized. So the code has stopped and it has gone into the exception part. So you can see that now it is just throwing an exception, right? Now over here, this is how the exception occurs, and this is how you can debug the code. Now I got to know that this is the line where I'm facing issues, right? I'm trying to divide 10 by 0, right? Let me just run it once again, and you can see that over here I'm on this line. A is having the value 10. You can notice it over here. B is having the value 0. You can notice it over here, and then this is trying to execute it and it is failing, right? This was about exception handling. We would be discussing this thing again when we would be working with Selenium, right? Now the next thing, that is the classes in Java, right? So over here, let us just start with that, and let me just change the perspective. Now to come back to the Java perspective, what we have to do is that we need to click on this Java button, and you would be coming back to this Java perspective. Now let me just create a new class, and I'll name this as, say, car. Okay, so there is a class car which can have some data. So what data it would be having? Let us just discuss that. Now over here, first of all, we won't be having the main method, right? Instead, we would be specifying some methods, right? First of all, the price of car, so int price, right? So this is the price of car. Now apart from that, we would be specifying something else as well, that is the name of car. So string name. So this is the name, and apart from that, let us just specify something else as well, that is wheels. So integer wheels, right? Now over here, there are 3 things that I've specified. Let us just initialize these things and let us just have the values assigned to it, right? Now what we would be doing is we would be creating another class, and I'll name this class as test car. So test car, and over here what we would be doing is, first of all, we would be having a main method which would execute. Control Shift F to format my code immediately. And now what I would be doing is I would be specifying few things, that is I'll say, and I'll initialize this car class, the car class that I've created over here, right? Now to access this car class over here, what I have to do, right? So first of all, I need to type the car name, the class name. So this is my class name. Now over here, I need to specify a reference name as well. So say I'll name this as C1. So this is my reference name, equals to, now I need to create an object of this car class to use it, right? So whenever you have to create a new object, what you have to do is that you need to type in something that is called new, and then the class name, the class with for whom you for which you have to create the new object. So as you can see that this is the car class, so we would be typing in car and then the brackets, right? Now over here, the object has been created, the object reference has been assigned an object. Now the next thing is that we need to access things inside this car class, right? So we have specified few things inside this car class, that is price, name, and wheels. Let us just discuss that. Now over here, if I type in something like this, that is c1.name. So I can assign a value now. So what is the value that I would want to assign? Say I would want to assign Toyota, right? So Toyota is there. Now this is the car name. Now the next thing is, what is the price, right? So c1 dot price, and let us just consider that the price is something like this, that is 1300000, right? So over here, this is the price. Now the next thing, we have specified the price as well. Now let us specify something else, that is the wheels, right? So c1 dot wheels, and that is equals to 4, right? Now over here we have specified this data. Now the question is that how would we be able to print this data? So simply system.out.println and c1 dot name. So this would be printing car name. Then over here system.out.println c1 dot price, and in the end system.out.println c1 dot say wheels, right? Now let me just execute this code and see what is the output. Now as you can see that it is printing the output Toyota, right? This was about initializing an object, right, and assigning it to a variable. What if I want to create an object only? So how would I be able to create an object? This is pretty easy. All you have to do is that you need to type in something that is new and then the car, say the class name. In my case, the class name is car. So this particular line, this particular part of code would create a new object of car class, and if I don't assign it somewhere, then it would be used directly. Otherwise, it would be assigned to the reference, right? Now over here, what we would be doing is we would be creating another object. So we can have multiple objects for the same class. So car c2 equals to new car, right? Now in the same way, we would be specifying some data. So c2 equals to c2.name equals to Suzuki, and c2.price equals to say 1000000, right? So over here we have this price. Now the third thing, that is c2.wheels. So c2.wheels, and we need to specify the number of wheels as well. Again, they are 4. So simply 4. Now we need to print this data, right? So we have specified some data, we need to print it as well. So c2.price, let me just go with the name first, c2.name, then system.out.println c2.price, and in the end system.out.println and c2.wheels. Right now over here, I'll execute this code and let us see the execution, and you can see that the output is this, that is Toyota 13 lakh 4, Suzuki 10 lakh 4, right? So we can create multiple objects. It doesn't matter how many objects we are creating, the data would be assigned to that particular object reference only, right? Now over here, what is happening? Let us just see that. So the thing is, just a second, it is stuck. Sorry. Now this is the car class, okay, which has 3 things. Let me just name them. So first thing is name. Second is price. The third thing is wheels, right? So these are the things that we have inside this particular class, right? Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to create object references. We are trying to create objects. With the help of those objects, we would be able to access these things. So suppose I've created C1, C2, and I would be creating C3 as well. Right? Now this is a type, this is of type say string, this is of type integer, this is of type integer. Right? Now let me just specify this over here. String, integer, right? And here integer as well. Right? So these variables carry some, say these data types carry some data size, right? Carry some memory. Whenever we are using them, they are actually blocking some memory, right? Now the thing is that where it would be blocking it and when it would be blocking it. So as this is a class, whenever the object is being created, then only the memory would be blocked. For example, this is a C1, this is C2, and this is C3. Whenever the new objects are being created, how? Let us just discuss that. So whenever I'm typing something like this, that is new car, right? Whenever I'm typing something like this, whenever I'm typing this particular command, that is new car, a new object is being created. So if I specify something like this, new car, so the new object would be created over here as well. In the same way, I can type it over here, new car, right? So the new object would be created over here as well, right? So this is how you can create a new object. Now the thing is that assigning this object. So I have assigned this object, and what is the value, like to which variable I've assigned it? So this is C1, this is C2, and this is C3. Now the next thing is that can I assign object of C3 to C1, or say C2 to C1, or C1 to C3? So let us just try that and let us see whether we can do that or not. For this, what we have to do is that we need to create another object, that is C3. So let me just copy paste the code, Control C and Control V. So this is the code that we have created. Let me just make few changes so that we would be able to work with it. So wherever I'm using C2, I just need to put in C3. So C3, C3, right? C3, and over here the prices as well. So C3, C3, and C3, right? So everywhere the data is updated. Let me just change the brand name as well. So instead of Suzuki, this time we would be dealing with Hyundai, right? And this has the price, say 120000, right? Now over here, let me just run this code and let us see that what it is printing. So Toyota 13 lakh 4, Suzuki 10 lakh 4, Hyundai 12 lakh 4, right? Now over here, the thing that I discussed with you, that is, can I assign of object of one reference to another? For example, C1 equals to C3, right? So what if I do something like this now? If I try printing C1 things, right? So what would happen? What it would be printing, right? So this would be the question in your mind. Let us see that and let us quickly see the result. Now over here it would be having Hyundai 12 lakh and 4, right? You can see that earlier it had this value, then it had this value, and then it had this value, right? So C3 is having its own value. Let me just print out few things. So say system.out.println, and I would print C1. Here I would use system.out.println again, and I would print C2. And in the same way, I would print C3 over here. So system.out.println SYSO control space and C3, right? Here I'm printing C1. So let me just use this thing, that is system.out.println, and let me just print out C1, right? Now over here, let me just run it once again. You can see the output very clearly. C1 is having this data, C2 is having this particular data, C3 is having this particular data, and the same data is provided to C1 as well. So if I make a change in C3, whether that would reflect in C1 or not, right? So this would be the question in your mind. Let me just do one thing. Let me just copy paste this code first. So here I would be making some changes to the code. What changes that I would be making? Say C1 dot name is not Hyundai, it is Kia, right? So let us just see that whether it is executing or not and whether the data is changing or not. Right, I made a change in C1 and you can see that the change has been reflected in C3. Right, so both of the things, that is C1 and C3, both of them are sharing the same object. Right, so whenever they're sharing the same object, whatever changes I make in one reference, those changes would be made immediately available to the another object as well. Right, sorry, object reference. So if I'm making changes with C1, this is very sure that the changes would reflect in C3 as well, because they're both sharing the same object. Right, now over here, this was about creating a data, creating a class and specifying the data. Now coming back to car class, now if we notice something over here, I am initializing wheels again and again. Right, so the data is being used, but the thing is that, is it needed? We have all the cars with 4 wheels. So this is something static information, which is not changing. The changing information is the brand name and the price. The number of wheels always remains same. Right, so what needs to be done so that we don't waste memory? Right, so all we have to do is that in this case, we need to specify something before integer, and that is a static and static int fields. The moment I do this, there would be some problems in this particular code. If you notice the problems, you can see that it is giving me 8 warnings. One of the things is that is the static field tar.wheels should be accessed in a static way. Right, we cannot access the things which are declared as static in this particular way. All we have to do is that we need to specify that way, and the way is this, that is car, that is the class name dot the element that we would want to access. Right, in the same way we need to specify it everywhere. So car dot wheels, and see, we have specified the value once, we don't have to specify it once again and again. Even one more thing, I don't have to specify it over here as well. This would be retrieved from here directly. So if I specify the value directly over here, that is 5 or 4 to be specific, there are 4 wheels in the car. So if I specify it like this, that would be fine as well. Let me just replace the code everywhere. So over here, this has been updated, and you can see that we can execute the code now, right? And it would be printing 4, but directly from here, rather than wasting memory, we are utilizing this memory, right? We can make use of it somewhere else. See, the thing is that right now we have only 4 to 5 lines of code, and the maximum we would be having is 20 to 30 lines of code, right? Now the thing is that won't be the case every time. We would be having multiple lines of code, and if we are declaring unused variables, in that case that would be causing us a lot of trouble. So we would be doing something, we would be arranging our code in a way so that the things which are not changing would be kept as static. The things which are changing, that are non-static, right? For example, these things, right, these variables, if you notice over here, the price and name, they were changing with all the objects, right? Whenever there is a concept of object in the class, this means that there is some data which changes with time, right? Which changes with time, or you can say that which changes with object to object, right? And whenever there is a static data, that won't change, right? This is something which is common across all the things, right? Now over here, we have specified this data. We have this non-static way as well. Now let us just have some functions created. So first of all, let me create a function. Now what function that I would be creating? Simply let me just create a function that is start car. So I would want to have a function which tells us that the car is starting. So public method, the return type is void, and the function name is start car. Right, so we have the start car. Let me just print out something over here that is starting the car. Right, now over here in test car I can call this particular method. So how would I be able to call this particular method? So let us just discuss that. Now for this, what we have to do is that we need to do something that is C1 dot. Now you can see that over here there are few things, and we have the function start car. We have the method start car, right? So let me just run this, and you can see that it would be printing starting the car, right? Now we can have it printed anywhere. So this is the older object. So system.out.println, or let me just print out the data directly instead of having a demarcation line. So C1 dot start car, right? Now over here, the moment I execute it, you can see that it is printing starting the car over here and over here as well, right? Now the next thing, so we have specified the method. Let us specify some other methods as well. So what are the methods that we would be specifying? Say stop car, right? So here public void stop car, right? Now over here the stopping is something like this. Now what we have to do is that we need to print out something. So what we need to print out? So system.out.println, and you can print stopping the car, right? Now if I execute this code, you can see that it is printing stopping the car as well, but it is not printing. Why? The reason is that we have not called it anywhere. So let me just call it over here, C1 dot stop car, right? Now I can execute it, and you can see the output as well. So the output is over here stopping the car. Now this is about the non-static function. What if I would want to have a function which is static? For example, whenever a car is running, the starting type would be same, but stopping type can be same, right? So over here, let us have something which is something same. So windows, all cars have windows. So public static void and windows, right? Now over here we can simply print something. So what things that I would want to print, right? So I would want to print that all cars have windows, right? So all cars have windows, right? This is something that I can print. Now how would I be able to access this thing over here? Simply, rather than accessing it with the help of an object, you can access it directly. So say car dot, you can see that windows. Now if I execute this code, you can see that it would be printing all cars have windows in the end, and you can see that over here it has printed this thing as well, that is all cars have window, right? So this is how you can initialize a static variable. This is how you can initialize a static type variable, right? Now the thing, that is the main thing, you're done with initializing a function, or you can say that method. You're done with initializing the variable types. You're done with the static and non-static access modifiers. Now let us have something that is the constructor. So what is the benefit of a constructor and why these are used? This would be the question in your mind. And what is a constructor as well, right? So constructor is something which is a default method whenever the object of class is created that gets executed. So how you can declare a constructor? This is pretty easy. So all you have to do is that you need to provide the name of the class, and you can see that over here I'm just typing in car and I hit control space and it is asking me for the constructor, and the constructor has been created. So this is how you can create a constructor. Its access modifier should be public, right? Now you can specify few things. For example, you would want to say have a customer name, right? So string, say customer name, so cust name, and you can print it over here. So say cust name, right? Now as you can see that over here I'm initializing this class, but it is starting to give me an error, that is argument mismatch. We need to specify arguments so the data can be provided to the constructor, right? Now over here I need to provide some data. So this is a constructor which is of type, say, parameterized constructor. It is requiring a parameter. Now the next thing is that we can have something, we can have multiple constructors declared as well, right? So public car, and we can specify it like this. I'm not specifying any, say, data retrieval over here. Say this is empty, right? If I print out something and I would print, say, welcome. So you can see that welcome is getting printed. Let me just run this. And you can see that welcome is getting printed all the time, right? Whenever I'm running this new car, welcome is getting printed. Now let me just do one thing. Let me just comment out all the code that is specified over here, and I'll specify something. That is, I'll just type in new car, right? So new car is being printed, and you can see that I just executed it. The function got called, that is that the constructor got called, and it printed welcome. Now we can have multiple objects initialized, that I told you earlier as well. So if I have this much number of functions, if I execute this code, welcome would be printed this much number of times. Not even once it would be skipped, right? Now over here, this is how you can specify the object. This is how you can create the object. Now let me just come back to the main point. So let me comment out this particular part and uncomment the main code, right? So over here, this is our code. Let me just uncomment it completely. Now over here, you can see that we created an object, and instead of having the object declared like this, new car, I would specify some data over here. So say Abhishek, right? So if I execute this code, you can see that Abhishek is getting printed over here, right? So I can modify it a bit. Instead of printing my name directly, it would be printing welcome Abhishek, right? So it would be printing welcome Abhishek and then exclamatory mark, right? So exclamatory mark, and this is done. Now let me just run this code once again, and you can see that welcome Abhishek exclamatory mark. So this is what I would want it to print, and this is what it is printing. The data is being provided over here, and then that data is being, say, initialized accordingly, right? This was about the basic concepts of classes. Now let us discuss, let us start with Selenium, right? Now over here, let us go to the official website of Selenium. Here we need to go with few things. So the website is seleniumhq.org, right? And over here, what you have to do is that to start working with Selenium, you need to download Selenium, right? Now over here, what you have to do is that as we are using Java type Selenium, right? So we need to download this particular version. As other people would be using C#, so they can download this one. So we would be dealing with Java, right? So we'll download this particular thing. And you can see that the version is 3.141.59, which was released in November last year, right? So this is the most stable version of Selenium released yet. And you can see that Selenium has been downloaded. the zip file has been downloaded. It takes a little bit time. Once it is downloaded, what you have to do is that you need to extract the contents inside, right? So it would take a little bit time, and let me just see it over here whether it has been downloaded or not. So there is some issue, and let me just download it once again. So this has been downloaded. After opening it, this would look something like this. All you have to do is that copy all the contents inside, move to a directory where you would want to extract it, right? So I would be moving to this particular directory, batches, and here I would be moving to the directory Selenium jars. Here I'll create a new directory, that is Selenium, say 3.141.59, right? So these are the files inside it. Now let me just extract the contents, and here the thing is that you can see that there are 2 jars and there are some other jar files inside the libs directory as well. So whenever you have to work with Selenium, you need to move all the jars in one directory. Here these are the jars. You can remove these license notice and changelog file and this libs file, right? Now over here you can see this content, right? Now how we would be able to use these jar files and how would we be able to work with these? So let us just see that. Now over here what we would be doing is, in our project, right click on this, go to properties. Here in Java build path, we need to click on one thing, that is we need to move to the libraries first, and then we need to click on this add external jars. Don't click anywhere else, just click on add external jars. Now we need to add external jar files. These are the jar files. Let me just move to that particular directory. So this is the directory that we created right now, and these are the jar files inside it. Let me just open them, and you can see that these are the jar files that have been added, right? Now if I show you, you can see that there would be a referenced libraries option now, which was not earlier. Now you can see that in the clients combined there are some packages. Now the question that you would have in your mind is, what is a package? So package is a folder name, right? Folder which has, say, summed up the data according to it, right? So for example, we have the package org.openqa.selenium. All the things related to Selenium would be kept inside. You can see that these are the things that are kept inside. In the same way, we have Firefox and Chrome. So for Chrome, these are the classes that are kept inside it. You will not find a Java file over here. You will just find .class file, as these are the compiled binaries, right? These are the working binaries, so you can work with them directly, right? Now over here there are multiple packages. You can see that there are a lot of packages. There is everything, right? Say remote, and say apart from that you can see that, say HTML5, Firefox x86, Firefox AMD64, Firefox internal, Firefox Edge, right? IE interaction. So there are a lot of classes, right? Now the thing is that over here, how would we be able to work with it? So let me just do one thing. Let me have a new class created, and that is Selenium Basics, right? Now over here, whenever you have to interact with the browser in Selenium, you need to download few things. That is the browser drivers, right? Now the question that you would have in your mind is, what is a browser driver, right? So a driver is something which interacts as a mediator between the browser and the code, right? So my Epic Pen is not working. Just give me a moment. So just a second. So consider this as our browser, right? And this is a driver, right? And this is our code. Now over here, let me just create more clear things. So this is our, just a second, this needs to be round, right? This is our browser. Next thing, this is our WebDriver, and the next thing, that is, this is our code, right? Now over here, this is browser. So WebDriver is interacting with browser like this, and it is interacting with our code as well. So we are sending in a request to WebDriver. That request is being forwarded to the browser. Browser is say working on that action. Then we are requesting some data, so that data is being requested back to the driver, and then WebDriver is sending that data back to us, right? So you won't be able to understand it right now. So let us just do one thing. Let us download the drivers. So right now we would be dealing with two major browsers, that is Firefox and Chrome. So we would be downloading the files, drivers for them. Now over here, I'm on to the download page of Gecko driver, which is for Firefox. Now all you have to do is that you need to scroll down to the bottom, and over here you can see assets. Here in assets, you need to download accordingly. As I'm using 64-bit version of Windows, so you need to download this particular file, right? And this is about this, that is Firefox. Now go back, and on this particular page you will find the link for Google Chrome as well. So just go to this. Now for Google Chrome, there is a trick, right? They have different versions for different version of Chrome. So you need to cross check which version of Chrome you're using. So click on this particular triple dot button, go to settings, and over here you need to scroll down, and you just need to go to the About Chrome option, right? And you can see that the Chrome you are using is, the Chrome I'm using is 76.0, not 3809. So you need to download version accordingly. Usually this is the middle version. The latest version that you usually use is the middle version, right? So you need to download this particular file. Now it would take a little bit time for the download. And here again you have three options. You don't have other option, that is Windows 64-bit. So you have to go with the 32-bit option only. Download this file. So these files are downloaded. Now you will find, whenever you're downloading for Windows, you will find a exe file inside. Now the question that would come into mind is where you need to keep this exe file. So you can keep it anywhere. All you have to do is that you need to remember the path. So what am I doing is, I'm going to this directory, that is batches. Here August 2019 is our batch directory, right? So here I'll create a new folder. I'll name this as jars and other stuff, right? So I will be keeping WebDrivers over here. So what is the WebDriver? That is over here. Let me just extract both of the drivers, copy this, and here I'll create a new folder, WebDrivers. So this is the directory. Let me just provide a meaningful name rather than jars and other stuff. Let me just rename it to something, that is essentials, right? Now inside essentials we have WebDrivers, and this is the Chrome driver. In the same way we would be having the Gecko driver. So Gecko driver was getting downloaded. Let us just see that over here Gecko driver is downloaded. We need to extract it. So copy this and extract it over here. So we have the Gecko driver, we have the Chrome driver. Now let us just have something with us, that is, let us try say initializing the browser. Right. So first of all, we need the main method. Now here in main method, let us just specify something, that is Chrome driver. So whenever you have to work with Chrome browser, you need to use Chrome driver. Now let us just initialize the driver. So driver equals to new Chrome driver. So what it is doing is, it is initializing the Chrome driver class, right? And assigning this data to this particular driver reference, right? Now over here we have initialized it, but to make it work you need to specify something, that is you need to specify the say driver path, right? Driver executable path. For that, what you have to do is that you need to use system dot set property. So what is the property that you would want to set? That is Webdriver dot Chrome dot driver. This means that you're specifying a WebDriver property for Chrome browser, right? And what is the file path? So this is the Chrome driver path, and this is my folder directory. So let me just have this thing, that is Chrome driver. Let me just copy the whole path, and over here I'll just provide the whole path over here, right? Control V, and the whole path is provided. This is done. Now I can execute this code. The moment I execute this code, you can see that it is executing and it is taking a bit time. And if we notice, it is giving us some logs as well. It is showing us some data, and you can see that a new browser instance of Chrome browser has opened, right? I can close it. Let me just run it once again, right? I'll run it again, and you can see that a new browser instance of Chrome driver has opened. Chrome browser has opened, and this is how you can open Chrome browser, right? Now let me just comment out this particular part of code. Stop the execution. Now let us just do the same thing for Firefox browser, but there would be a difference. So what is the difference? The system.set property line would be different for Firefox browser. So let us just discuss that. So system.set property, not properties. So this is property, right? The key is this, that is WebDriver.Gecko.driver, right? Now the value, what is the value? So the value is this. Let us just go there and see. So over here, Gecko.driver.exe, right? And let me just provide it over here. So the value is this: A batches August 2019 essentials WebDriver Gecko.driver.exe, right? Now over here, what you have to do is that you need to say, put on a command, that is Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver, right? Now over here I can execute this code, and let me just remove the error first. I provided one extra bracket closure, right? Now if I execute this code, you can see that it would take a little bit time for the execution, but it would open Firefox browser, right? So this is how you can open Firefox browser and Chrome browser. In the next lecture, we would be discussing more about these things and how we can work with these things, right? If you have any queries for today's lecture, you can feel free to ask.